Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only podcast more mediocre than the St. Louis Cardinals. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hey, Nate.
If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. All right, Hambone, Pack Show, we got a lot to talk about, but let's get through some.
Oh, yeah, brother.
We've got a little bit of business to get to first. First of all, this is an early record session for us. So we don't normally do this, but I'm doing a little bit of traveling again. So we're recording in the AM on Wednesday, which is even more AM for Hambone here. We both have our coffee drinks. We're going to try to...
I have
what?
Kirkland cold brew in a can.
Wow. I was going to say, what's your coffee of choice, Hambone?
Cold coffee. I need gasoline in my system as early as possible. I am one of those sickos. Yeah. Fully addicted.
Yeah, same. However, I have in the last few months, I've really tried to adopt the research around the wait an hour before after you wake up to drink coffee. I don't know if you've seen this, if you've heard about this, if you've seen this, but there's
because the coffee knows how long you've been awake. What the fuck are you talking about?
An incredibly poor man's explanation is that your body goes through phases as you're waking up, right? And there's something that goes on that basically clears some remaining elements of sleep, and caffeine inhibits that ability, your body's ability to clear that thing. And if you wait an hour, then your body will fully go through the wake up sleep cycle, and then the caffeine can have full effect. Basically, if you don't wait an hour, you set yourself up for more likely that afternoon crash. So anyway,
see, the thing about me, first off, that sounds like bro science nonsense. The thing about me, Nate, is I never crash.
Wow.
Ever.
Okay. I've seen you
I've
seen you take a few spills on the mountain.
Damn it. That was so stupid. Yeah.
Bro.
I mean, yeah, I crash cars.
Yeah.
Crash skis. Yeah. I do. Yeah. That kind of stuff. Cool stuff.
Well,
that's what I'm trying to really brand as
the cool guy,
Xander Cage of this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm Triple X, Fast and the Furious. Yeah, that's my new brand I've decided on this morning.
Mi familia.
I love crushing Coronas in the backyard
yeah.
with people who aren't in my family, but I call my family.
I like hanging out with my close personal friend Ludacris. Luda. Okay, so we're recording.
I love Ludacris. He's the best.
He is the best.
Sorry.
I forget what song of his came on, but I heard one recently. I was like, I need more Luda in my life, both as an actor and as a musician.
Just more Luda, period. Yeah, fully agree.
But anyway, this is the morning record. And I'm traveling again. So Hambone's on his own next week. I don't know what his plan is, but I will not be here next week. So that may be for some of you your favorite episodes. For some of you, you may just want to skip next week. I don't know. I recommend you listen. Last time it was Ben and Kyle, and it was a great episode. So
yeah, I'd say all the Nate heads out there, why don't you stick around next week? Just try a little Ben on for size.
Just try a little Ben. Try a little Ben.
Just try it.
Yeah. So I'll be out again next week. So thanks, Ben, for managing that. But I'll be back the following week. And so let's get to the real topic at hand. What the people I'm sure want to know about. If somehow this is your first episode, Ben and I have been basically challenging each other back and forth over the summer in foot races because we're cool like that. And
so we're 12 years old.
Yeah. So we both did our respective local baseball related 5K where there was the Cardinals Care 5K. You had a Rockies equivalent. I had a better time in that one. So you challenged me directly to an in-person race. And we did that. We did it on Friday. but in standard talking about birds fashion, little bit of chaos. So I'm gonna talk through it.
Talk through it, Nate. Web your weave.
Ben's got to take that. He's been holding it. He's been holding it for the show. The weird thing about spending a lot of time with your cousin, who's also your podcast co-host, is I think we both hold shit we want to talk about at this point for the episode. Sometimes I just spent like the last week with this guy in between this last episode and this episode. But anyway. So we had a fine, lovely Friday morning in St. Louis. It was
shockingly gorgeous. Yeah. I couldn't believe it.
Perfect day.
Shout out STL weather for once.
Perfect day. Yeah, for once. Normally when you come into town, it's like welcome to hell.
Yes,
it sucks here. It's 99% humidity. But anyway, not on Friday. It was perfect day. We had a few other friends running with us. Friend of the show, Brandon, was there, and a couple of our other friends. And it kind of took us a little while to get set up, and we didn't really establish a starting or a stopping spot other than like a general vague area. And we just sort of said, go. I think the reality is we both thought this was going to be a clear outcome one way or the other. It was at least what I was expecting, that there would be some space. Either one of us would be ahead of.
You thought you were going to just run away with it.
I did not. I honestly, what I said to Molly the day before was that, and I hate to say this, but Ben has always been considerably more athletic than me. You've got probably 200 pounds of muscle on me. So, you just have always been a more active person than me. But running is something I've done for a long time. So I thought if there's any sort of athletics that I would do better than you at, it's this. I've been doing it as like a hobby for a while. So I thought I had a really good chance, but I honestly was not going to be surprised if you did beat me. And so I will say that this was both the best race of my life and also the worst race of my life. The best race because I got a new personal best. So did you. So did Brandon.
Yeah.
I think the spirit of the competition pushed all of us. We came in at just over a 26-minute 5K, which is much better, I know, than you'd ever done by a lot.
Yeah, I can't believe that I have that. Yeah. That alone is pretty exciting for me.
Yeah, it was a huge improvement for you and my personal best by I think at least a minute. And that was mostly because for the entire race, I had Hambone like 5 to 15 feet directly behind me. It was like a shitty It Follows. It was like worse than It Follows. I would have rather had, if you've seen that movie, I would have rather had the like creepy sex monster from It Follows stomping behind me besides Hambone, just thump, thump, thump behind me. I wasted a lot of breath yelling at him. In hindsight, that was not a good idea. Yelling, stop.
I had noise canceling headphones on, so I just didn't hear any of it.
Hear me at all. I'm yelling, just stop. I truly thought, because I was running at a pretty good clip, I truly thought that you've never done this before. Not at this pace. You've obviously been training for a little while,
right?
But we all share our numbers with each other. You never run at this pace for this length. I thought if I just keep going, I can handle this pace. He's going to slow down, and he did not. For the entire race, he was like directly behind me. It was.
I mean that was my to be clear. And I don't know if I actually said this out loud, but that was my strategy as I was running an unfamiliar track, and I thought I'll just stay right behind Nate and I'll pace him. And what's great is with your big stupid head, you're breaking up the wind, so you were kind of giving me a path.
Was that drafting?
You're giving me a path to kind of cut through. Exactly. So my MPGs were higher than yours, which was great.
That is nice. All electric, baby. So we get to the final stretch, and at this point, after he, once we're at like a 5K, if you're not aware, is 3.1 miles. So we're like at around 2.75 miles. I'm like, I know what he's gonna do. He's gonna try to turn on the burners at the very end.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to reserve a little bit of space. He's trying to reserve a little bit, or I don't know. But in the last maybe
it's like 600, 700 meters, something like that. I would guess
something like that. He turns on the burners and passes me. So and I like my legs are wobbly at this point because again, this is the fastest I've ever done too. So like it's all new for me. But I want to win, so I turn on the burners. We both have tracking apps. At one point, I hit a 5 minute 30-second mile pace, which is pretty fast. Trying to keep up with him. And then this is where the problem ends up because we didn't really establish a starting line. I will say directly, Ben, I do believe, crossed the general area of where we started before I did.
So this is the problem with what we did is because so Nate's explaining the track and everything like that. And I'm getting my app ready and, I'm setting up my music and everything like that. And then I look up and Nate's already like 100 yards ahead of me, just jogging. So I'm like, oh, shit. So I start my app and my app has a 6-second countdown. It's all this little minutia, but Nate was already gone. So then I had to kind of get going, catch up to him, and then start the race. So it was
the whole thing.
It was stupidity. Stupidity is why we are here.
Which is sort of the core element of our show, which is what makes this perfect. So this is where it gets tricky because like as far as the app goes, my time was faster than Ben, but he got to the end like a step or two before me. So it's hard not to call it some weird version of a tie, but I am trying to both say it's kind of that, but also give Ben a ton of credit here because that was your fastest 5K by multiple minutes, right? Like, So it was.
I think I shaved like 6 or 7 minutes off my time that I did the Rockies 5K.
Yeah, which is insane. And it was my fastest by like a minute. But either way, we both hit our fastest of all time. Brandon also hit his fastest of all time. So overall, as far as the like. Individual accomplishment, the healthy, the like fitness side of this, huge success for both of us. Inconclusive as far as how the ending goes.
I am comfortable with those things.
Yeah.
I am comfortable with celebrating the collective win of the podcast. I'm fine with that. Hurrah, hurrah. We are good at this, or we've gotten slightly better at this. I would not say we're good at this. And I am also comfortable with saying, okay, Nate H, let's push. And I think what maybe makes more sense is to find an official 5K
with the RFID
that you and I both run at the same time so that we cannot be in control of the results and it is left up to an independent third party who ideally we pay money to track this so that we can get a real answer. And then I also want to say, I believe that I won.
I know you do. And that's fair. You are a pretender to the crown with some justification. So I think that's fair. I'm not going to argue too hard with you, but I think we do need an official. We need to do it better. I really did think either I was going to beat you by like a minute or you were just going to bust out something crazy and beat me, and it wasn't going to be this close. I actually meant to say at the start, let's say if we're plus or minus 10 seconds, it's a tie, and we just say that out of the gates because the beginning was so awkward. But I forgot to say it, and so then of course exactly that happens.
And I'll give you while I've said my piece, I'll give you a little bit of credit too because I burned past you when we were going across the bridge, which was towards the end of the race, and I was like, boom, cruise control, let's go, peace out. Thinking about what I'm going to eat for lunch that day, and then you, like you said, you picked it up, and then I had to run even harder after that, and that like talk about like running the hardest that I ran that day, having basically a 5K behind me, like. Seconds away from face planting onto the pavement. So it was very fun. I had a great time doing it. We need to do it again. I win, you lose.
Well, we'll do one of the official ones. Maybe we can get together for one of the ballpark ones. Or these things happen everywhere all the time, so it's just a matter of
we'll figure it out.
A weekend.
Can we organize a Talking About Birds 5K?
Yeah, it'll be me and you and Brandon.
I don't know, C70. I think C70.
Yeah, get him
like
up here.
To start
What's
running.
Kyle up to? Kyle will sit on the side and drink beer and watch, I'm sure.
There we go.
Kelsey, I think, is a runner, but she's all the way in the other side of the country now.
Yeah, I think she's in really good shape. She's a personal trainer. I don't want that. Yeah, that can stay away from this.
All right, let's get into so that concludes this summer of racing, but we'll bring it back up once we can figure out the next time we can actually find a time to do an official race. So, all right, let's talk.
I hate us.
Yeah. It is very Talking About Birds that it ultimately comes together with nobody winning and not everyone loses.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's jump into Cardinal news. We've got a big one this week. We actually spent like 25 minutes of last week's episode talking about Jordan Walker. I don't want
John Mozeliak listens to this podcast. That's all I can really say.
He's been on the show
point.
a number of times too. And of course you got a famous at this point. Great question from him earlier in the summer. So we spent quite a while talking about Jordan Walker. He'd been heating up, and in between last week and this week, he'd been heating up even more. He'd been essentially crushing the ball at AAA after multiple months of struggles. My thoughts had been that we should just let him cook down at AAA. I'd been pretty content to just say, let's let him finish out the minor league season and then, maybe make his way back up or be ready for spring next year. But the Cardinals had other plans. Matt Carpenter has gone on the injured list with a lower back strain. The Cardinals have been struggling mightily against left-handed pitching, and they decided, let's do it. Let's bring up Jordan Walker. So Jordan Walker is back, and hopefully for good. Now, they're saying he is primarily going to be platooning against left-handed pitchers, but I think much like Pham, performance would result in more at-bats, and the Cardinals are looking for anything right now because it's been a little rough again recently. Hambone, what are your thoughts on the decision to bring up Jordan Walker?
Yeah, well, so first off, the Matt Carpenter injury feels like a fake injury.
I know. There's a lot of people have speculated that, and again, we'll never know. Kind of fine with it either way. It's been rough, and they needed to do something. So whether it's real or not, who knows?
I will predict right now. I think he'll come back at some point. I think he'll announce his retirement before the end of the year, and he'll get a final at bat or game or whatever in front of St. Louis Cardinals fans.
I was thinking the same thing.
He'll ride off into the sunset, and it'll be lovely. Maybe the Cardinals make it to the playoffs, and maybe that's extended a little bit. I'm not sure, but I do think that he is probably done, and it is what it is. And I love Matt Carpenter for his contributions to my Cardinal fandom and the team. But Jordan Walker's back up, and as reported by Katie Wu, like you said, the Cardinals plan to platoon Jordan Walker. That part I do find a little bit insane. And essentially what Katie Wu said in her Athletic article that came out right before he came up was that the Cardinals are going to be prioritizing performance for the big league club above all else. And part of me thinks, oh, that's great. Let's push in, get the team going. I'm going to talk about another potential option that they could have brought up again later in the show, but let's just focus on Jordan Walker right now. I don't know if any well-ran organization makes this decision to prioritize whatever you want to put Jordan Walker at. If he's a future value of 60, 65, 70, a potentially franchise-altering young player who many people think, and I think I'm one of them, is a guy that could hit 40, 50 home runs a year, get some all-star games. Maybe there's an MVP potential in his bat somewhere. Maybe he really figures out right field or first base or whatever and is a real solid contributor for the Cardinals for hopefully many, many years to come. To kind of prioritize the last 6 weeks of this season over his development and to say that you're going to use him in a platoon situation where he doesn't have like really stark, impressive platoon splits in the minors or in his year in the majors last year really is confusing to me. I would say if you think that he's made the changes that he's made and that he can go up and be effective against major league pitching, which is what I thought he was doing down there, then bring him up and let him start every day and you know, let's put your money on him and let it happen. I'm not sure I see this making the most sense. Or really, if you're going to do this, why don't you call somebody else up who is hitting left-handed pitching well and make Jordan Walker September call-up, but let him get everyday at-bats.
Yeah.
If you don't think he's going to turn the offense around, or if you don't think he's going to start every day, it's hard for me to imagine him turning this team around immediately. Like it's they're kind of talking out of both sides of their mouth, and it doesn't really make sense. We think he's good enough to come up and hit left-handed pitching, but not every day. But we really need that bat against left-handed pitching so that we can push into the playoffs. Like, is he good or is he not good? Is he ready or is he not ready?
Yeah.
It's a half measure, which inherently annoys me.
Yeah.
And obviously, I would like you said, I hope it's the last promotion. I hope he clicks in. I hope he performs.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really make sense.
No, I've been confused by it as well. And I have been trying to wrestle with balance just my sheer fandom of Jordan Walker. You know, I've said for a while now that I think the Cardinals' true path to returning to like legitimacy, being a legitimate playoff contender every year and not just sort of scraping the edges, is through Jordan Walker. You know, I think maybe that's changing a little bit with guys like JJ Weatherholt and or like even like a Quinn Matthews. You know, we're starting to see some new top level prospects coming through the Cardinal system, but still, I think, like you said, Jordan Walker,
Mason Wynn.
Yeah, well, Mason Wynn for sure. But a little bit different. I'm thinking more like either offensively or top of the line starting. But I still think that Jordan Walker is critical to the Cardinals' future success. And
yeah,
I agree with you. This would make a lot more sense if his splits were more obvious. If he was absolutely dominating left-handed pitching and struggling against righties, or being sort of average against righties and dominating lefties. But he's never really had that profile. It just seems like they're just saying, well, he's right-handed, so he's going to hit lefties, you know, and we'll just roll with that, I guess. I don't know. I'm a little confused by it. Maybe they just also were just looking for an excuse to get him back up, and here it is. But I'm trying to be optimistic here because he really did seem to be clicking in at AAA, and if he can convert that into major league success, I do think that he pretty quickly just becomes a starter, and the whole conversation about platooning goes away. Maybe they were trying to, for once, manage expectations for him. You know, we've seen that
take the pressure off
of him. We've only ever seen them present him to us as fans as the golden child who's going to save the St. Louis Cardinals. You know, that I have 2 bobbleheads of him from this season, and he wasn't even here most of the season. So I don't know. Maybe they're trying to do that, giving him the benefit of the doubt here. But we've only seen him in one game. He drew a walk and nothing else. We'll see.
In the minors this year against right-handed pitching, he has a 717 OPS, and against lefties, he has a 676 OPS.
So it's less against lefties.
And I mean, I don't have the underlying metrics, in front of me right now. It could be that he's just scorching those balls off lefties and not getting the results.
Could also be this last month.
Find that data.
Like I don't know if you separate by this last month. I wonder if it's different because he was pretty rough for the first 2 months down at the minors, and it's really only been recently that we've seen this success. So maybe this recent success has been more off of lefties. I don't know, but he's never really been a platoon
we have
guy.
to assume that they have better numbers than we have, and that they hopefully know what they're talking about more. So maybe there's more truth to this, but it's as far as like what I can find and what we have available to us, it doesn't totally make sense. But maybe it is. Maybe it's just a messaging thing. Yeah. I think that's a really nice way to look at it. Is that we're gonna take we had the multiple bobbleheads, the Skywalker references, the big rollout, everything. Maybe we just want to temper those expectations a little bit and let the kid play and figure himself out, and spend time with Tommy Pham, spend time with Nolan Arenado, spend time with Paul Goldschmidt and everyone else, and just kind of get used to being a big league player. But I think the outward messaging to like I said, the prioritizing the winning now over the Walker development, I understand why Mo and Co would say something like that, but I think it is clearly short-sighted.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice though, right? Isn't that kind of what we've been arguing for a while? Is like do shit that helps you win right now instead of all of this like conservatism and all of this like take your time with everything. We don't have any more time. They're not in a playoff spot. They're exactly 500 as we record. And I don't know if you're watching, but the Diamondbacks and the Padres are crushing right now.
Yeah.
And then then you still have the Braves and the Mets.
The Brewers are pulling away too.
So it's it's getting dire for the St. Louis Cardinals. So I appreciate this win now mentality. It's nice to see. It just this is the one that doesn't. It's like they're communicating a win now move that doesn't really make sense as a win now move. You know what I mean? So but let's
the playoff odds have shrank down to 9%, by the way.
Yeah,
so just as it's kind of tracking that throughout the year, it's shrinking.
It's one of the lowest
shrinking.
it's been.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move forward though. A couple other moves have been made in the last week. So the Cardinals have activated Riley O'Brien from the 60-day IL, and he's been optioned to AAA, which is...
We're calling him Rob.
Rob, of course, right. Shout out to the email we got referencing calling 911 to talk about Rob.
Shout out Rob.
Yeah.
I think it was
Rob emailed us about Rob.
Rob Nunn liked Rob.
Yeah.
So
Rob,
I'm onto something.
Rob's got to stick together. Also, shout out to the person who text messaged us saying that you should do something to my prescription shorts, which I'm glad you did it. That's medical equipment. Thank you very much. But anyway, or maybe you did. I don't know. Okay.
I was going to say. Right on your ass.
You had like a big magnet in my shorts, and you were attached to the magnet. And that's why you were able to stay right behind me the whole time.
Oh my God.
I didn't notice that 40-pound magnet.
The pull somehow? Yeah, weird.
Okay, so Rob's been optioned. Hopefully he is able to find some footing there and can make it back to major league level soon.
I think that's going to be a huge boon for the Cardinals here. I think that, especially at this time of the season, the way that the Cardinals have used the bullpen has been, extremely taxing. So the fact that Riley O'Brien, aka Rob, is going to be coming back hopefully soon with that 100-mile-an-hour plus fastball will be a huge win. I don't know exactly what place he takes in the bullpen. Everyone's kind of been okay recently. Mm-hmm. Who do you swap out? Does Ryan Fernandez go take a breather down in AAA?
Certainly seems like he could use a little break.
Sean Armstrong, I think, has actually been a little better than I expected him to be. Now he's not been lights out, but he's been far better than he was with the Rays earlier this year. So obviously something has changed there. But either way, him coming in is going to be, I think, a win no matter what. Yeah.
Well, it's been kind of the story of the St. Louis Cardinals this year is that there has been the pockets of quality have been when the two sides of the ball have lined up pretty well. They're pitching pretty well. And they're hitting pretty well. But the reason the team really is a 500 level team is that through most of the season, except for that crazy run when they were the best team in NL for like a month and a half, it's either been the pitching has been collapsing or it's been the offense has been collapsing. And in the period that we're in right now, the pitching has been okay. I mean, it's not been the best, but they've been getting the job done generally. And it's been the offense. They just have not been able to score a run. So as we stand right now, there's not an obvious, the bullpen's collapsing or anything like that. But they're not scoring a lot of runs. So run mitigation is our best other option here. And just continuing to stack the bullpen is going to help. So I'm sure he'll hopefully, first it comes down to performance. Hopefully he recovers well and is looking good. And then who he replaces. I mean, it's all those guys kind of at the back end. Leahy, Armstrong, Fernandez. It's going to probably be one of those guys. King, your favorite. One of those guys could probably use a breather and O'Brien comes in. Speaking of the bullpen, Nick Robertson, one half of the return for Tyler O'Neill, was DFA'd, and the Angels have announced that they've claimed him. So he's gone. Yeah. I feel like there's a big window here for us to rant and rave about the Tyler O'Neill trade and how bad it might have turned out. But I'm exhausted by that at this point. It sucks.
I think you can copy and paste my rant about Dylan Carlson and just place it onto this. The Cardinals moving players at their lowest value, getting nothing in return, and it fizzling out.
Yeah.
That being said, I will note that I liked the Nick Robertson trade. Yeah. At the time, I think that Nick Robertson is an effective major league pitcher. Circumstances and so on and so forth led to that not working out, but he'll have a good season or two at some point. I think he's got good stuff. It'll work out for him.
Yeah.
Victor Santos is uninspiring and exists.
Yeah, I think I remember at the time too. We have to, a trade is judged at two moments, right? At the time, and then way in the future looking back. At the time, we thought this was a pretty good trade. Now looking back, O'Neill's having a pretty good season with the Red Sox. If you look at just his stat line, it looks fantastic. I will say that it is a very Tyler O'Neill season, though. He has been on the IL, I think, 3 times with the Red Sox. He is currently with a leg infection. So, it's still kind of the Tyler O'Neill story. When he plays, he's very good, but he just constantly misses games. I think we'd all be very happy to have Tyler O'Neill right now on the Cardinals, but the trade made sense at the time. It just sucks that it almost immediately hasn't worked out.
Yeah. Just to be obnoxious, I will note that he is absolutely crushing left-handed pitching this year when he has been available. He's hitting over 310 and has 9 of his homers in only 100 at-bats off left-handed pitching. So just to pour a little salt in the wound. But love some Ty. I want good things. And hopefully his leg gets better. He has a leg infection.
Yeah, well,
that seems like an injury that a pirate would get. What's going on here?
Well, it's been I haven't tracked it super closely, but I have looked a little bit at it. He missed a bunch of games with a stomach illness, and then was placed on the IL for a leg infection. So,
yeah, I'm looking at it says 10-day IL Wednesday due to an infection of his lower left leg.
Yeah, I don't know.
Again, I think he's been swashbuckling. That's the only thing that makes sense. He needs to eat more citrus. What is going on?
Could be
here?
scurvy. Could be scurvy. He needs more citrus.
Or a STD. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they're
lower left leg.
Maybe he's got a hanger on him, Nate. I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to be polite in the news. Okay.
I mean, that's pretty. They refer to it as his lower left leg. It could be. Could be.
Maybe.
Mr. Canada, come in.
Oh, wowee.
Okay. So what do the Cardinals
lock it in?
All right. So what do the Cardinals do? They're at 500. I mean, they have like they got to continue pushing, right? They sort of bought at the trade deadline. You know, they bought in a way that I think we all thought was pretty smart. They bought for 2025 also, with their big move being Eric Fetty, but they're still they still see themselves as contenders for this year. So what do we do? What do you think, Ben? There's a few things that are kind of going well under that maybe haven't been talked about yet.
Yeah, I do think. Well, first off, I agree with you. The Cardinals are 60-60 right now. There is a decent amount of baseball left. Like you just referenced, the Cardinals were the best team in baseball for a month and a half at one point. They have success in them, and they have high ceiling players who could click in and who could have a productive 6 weeks. And one of those players, Nate, is Paul Goldschmidt. I want to shout out that Nolan Arenado has also been contributing to the team recently. He is lacking power, which, we've talked about that. That part of his career might just be done. The years of 35, 40 home runs for Arenado might be done. But because of the style in which he plays, high contact, great defense, he could be a valuable player into his mid to late 30s. So I'm not really worried about that. I really hope he has a swing change in the offseason. We'll see what happens. But Paul Goldschmidt, who we have ragged on for a good chunk of the year, over the last 2 weeks, he has put up a 152 WRC plus, meaning that he is 50% better than the average major league player. In June, Goldie posted a walk rate of 5%, which is well below his career average. In June, a 5%. In July, just under 3% walk rate. Oof. Which is that's just poo-poo. That's like lower than Buxton, lower than, I mean,
it is poo-poo.
I might be able to walk at a higher.
I think in this time we can use a technical term. You know, it is poo-poo.
It's a poo-poo walk rate.
It's a poo-poo walk rate.
But Nate, in August, he's rocking the 12%. Which is in line with his career norms, which means to me, the reason I'm picking on that stat is because I think that means he's seeing the ball a lot better. He is taking better at bats, and he is finding the pitches that he actually wants to do damage on. And this guy has a history of hitting well in the second half. Now, I'm sure there are people on the other end of me saying this, like, too little, too late, my homie. But guess what? Paul Goldschmidt, if you look at those underlying numbers, really since his MVP season, he has not taken a step back. If you look at the expected numbers, his hard hit numbers, his swing rate numbers, all of those things since 2022 have been the same. Now, his results last year sucked, but that was not his fault in my opinion. And his results this year, he definitely was striking out more than he ever has in a Cardinals uniform, but the underlying numbers look good. I think that there could be a serious 6-week surge in the bat of Paul Goldschmidt, and I think he's starting to show the signs of it. I'm not fully ready to do the Alec Burleson style, the breakout is here, go pick him up, let's go crazy. But there are some signs that he could really, really be turning it around right now, and I don't think there couldn't be a more important player to the Cardinal and their ability to make the playoffs than Paul Goldschmidt. And him turning it around, if I'm making sense.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's going to take something like that, right? The only way that this turns around and the Cardinals make it back into playoff contention is some real breakout performances. They're not going to get there by just everybody kind of being, doing what they've done through the majority of the year. Even the May-June sort of run. I mean, Sonny Gray was a big part of that in his dominance, but there was really just like an extended period of everybody performing slightly above average and it working out against really bad competition. We have to remember that period of time happened when the Cardinals had something like 45 games against sub 500 teams, and now the rest of the season is pretty much against only good teams. They have one of the hardest schedules in baseball. So they're going to need a lot more than just the team kind of rallying together. They're going to need like star performances from their stars. And that is Goldschmidt. That is Arenado. So it is very nice to see that it is starting to happen. Hopefully it continues and I think we're approaching the need for a 2022 or was it 2021 17 game win streak to save the season sort of thing. Don't need that much yet, but we're getting there.
To that point, I think it's a good time to bring up the fact that it was reported by Derek Gould earlier this week that a extension in between your St. Louis Cardinals and Paul Goldschmidt is apparently on the table, or is a conversation that the Cardinals and Goldschmidt are starting to have or want to have, or the way in which that they phrased it, Mo always being Mo, is he said that he wants to see or wants to understand about what a return looks like. And in the article that Derek Gould wrote, he referenced a similar style to Adam Wainwright, Yadier Molina type contract, where you kind of keep bringing him back until it's not making sense anymore. And to that, I think a lot of people are going to be frustrated by that. I think a lot of people are going to be for it. I think that the Cardinals are probably looking at stuff like he still has a almost 50% hard hit rate, that he has aged well so far. He still has elite exit velocity numbers. His expected slugging, his barrel percentage are all well above average. His bat speed is still well above average. And, I assume that's what's driving this conversation. I will say, at the beginning of this year, I would have said slam dunk. Give Goldie.
We were saying it. We did say it. We were saying extend him today. We were big fans of extending him.
After the season, that decision is a little more difficult. But if you trust the process, like you're supposed to do, if you're disciplined, if you're really looking at the underlying metrics and you expect those to bear out, because they usually do, there is a thought process here that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I will probably, if this does happen, I will probably celebrate it. But I am going to need to marinate on this for a while. I don't know what to think exactly right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is the real argument of like fandom and just like enjoying certain players and just like I like seeing Paul Goldschmidt as a St. Louis Cardinal. He was one of my favorite players before he became a Cardinal. I couldn't believe they got him. Then he wins an MVP as a Cardinal. I mean, he's not only a Cardinal Hall of Fame player, he is a Hall of Fame player. So, It's hard to say anything other than I love Paul Goldschmidt. Let's make him a Cardinal forever. Then the rational mind of just like wanting to optimize your lineup and have the best 26 man possible. You do start to think about, well, if he's not there, there's a pretty natural spot for an Alec Burleson or a Jordan Walker at first base. And that does start to free up the outfield log jam a little bit. And, you can see how moving on from Paul Goldschmidt actually makes a lot of sense from a baseball level and frees up. It just starts to solve some of these consistent problems that we've had with playing time and log jams and whatnot. But also, again, it's not like anyone's running away with it in the outfield other than Siani was. Right. And Burleson, I think, is pretty well established himself as a major league starter going forward. But can we really say someone's going to come in and be better than Paul Goldschmidt right now? Like, I don't know.
That's kind of where I'm at, Nate, is like, okay, you could say you're going to give it to Walker. You could say you're going to give it to Burley, but are they really going to do better? And how are you going to feel when, Paul Goldschmidt takes his really solid underlying metrics to the New York Yankees and has a couple of really great years to finish out his career? I think that's going to hurt. And I don't know. I almost would. I kind of always opt towards betting on a Hall of Fame, this level of player, to figure it out than trying the kid. Yeah. Just because they don't, like Nolan Arenados and Paul Goldschmidts and Juan Soto's and these type of players just don't fall off trees. And I think collecting as many as you can, even if they're past their prime, is a good methodology generally.
Yeah. And I mean, think of, again, these are crazy comps, but they are fellow Hall of Fame level players. Think of how an Adrian Beltre ended his career. Think of how a David Ortiz ended his career. That like you normally are not betting on a 36, 37, 38-year-old, but if you are going to, it's going to be this level of player. And I suspect after this year, and just how Paul Goldschmidt has acted in the past, I can't imagine the contract would be too ridiculous. And they'd probably get him on 1 year, 2 year sorts, 1 year with an option sort of thing. You know, I'm guessing it's still Paul Goldschmidt, so you're probably looking at $20 million a year. You know, you're still signing this kind of guy, but I don't think it's going to be like it'll likely be cheaper than what they're paying him today.
Facts.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on. You mentioned it earlier. We've already called for it on this episode, but when we're talking about, or on this show, but when we're talking about what the Cardinals could be doing right now, where's our boy Luken Baker?
Oh my God!
What more? He actually said it himself. He was interviewed recently, and he said, "I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do," and you got to feel for the dude. I mean, I know there's some risk in his profile, but he's led the minors in home runs for the last 2 years. Like, I don't, and all the underlying looks pretty good. Like, I don't know what else he needs to do to get up and get some consistent at bats at the major league level.
I think we're just going to start saying this until they bring him up. I think it's kind of insane, especially when you're talking about having trouble against left-handed pitching. This year in AAA, Luken Baker has had 139 plate appearances against left-handed pitching. In those plate appearances, he has hit 13 home runs. He has walked 22 times against 29 strikeouts, and his slash line is a 281 batting average, a 403 on-base percentage, and a 711 slugging percentage, totaling to over 1,100 OPS. This is your in-house answer.
Yeah, that is insane numbers against left-handed pitching, which is what makes me think like the whole thing about I already said it, but like all this narrative about Walker as a bat against left-handed pitching just sounds like things they're just saying and doesn't actually reflect how they truly believe. Because if they really felt like they needed to make a move specifically for left-handed pitching, it's Luken Baker by a mile right now. I mean, that's an incredible number. There must be something about Luken Baker's profile that they just really don't believe is going to translate at the major league level. I don't know. I mean, I know we saw him last year briefly, but that never really felt like a real attempt. And we've seen other guys like Moises Gomez and stuff like that who hit 30 something home runs at the minors. And you just kind of can tell it's like this crazy raw power that does well against minors pitching, but you just know it's not going to work against major league pitching. But I don't know. I don't see it in this guy. Like his walk rate is great. Like there's none of that stuff that just feels like it's the same sort of story. So I don't understand why he's still down there.
He's walking at like a 15% rate in AAA right now. That's like a Hall of Fame level walk rate.
Yeah, so even if he loses half of that,
strikeout.
Even if he loses half of that at major leagues, has a good walk rate.
He also has a 228 BABIP in AAA right now, which is really kind of spoiling his numbers a little bit. You have to imagine, just based on how hard he hits the ball in his general game, that will normalize at some point, and maybe it'll normalize in the big leagues. I'm not saying that this guy is going to come up and have a 150 WRC plus, but I do think that he can hit against lefties, and he's a 27-year-old prospect. Why not pull the trigger?
Yeah.
If you're pushing for the playoffs, if you have 6 weeks, what else is he doing for you? And who's he taking at bats away from?
Yeah.
He can be a bench bat. He can come in for Burley. I think having Burley against righties and Luken against lefties would be a really fun, solid, smart DH platoon that I think makes a lot of sense. Just try it out. I just don't.
Yeah.
I would love to hear a response. Why are we not doing this?
I'd love to know more specifically why. I mean, the argument, of course, is he's a 27-year-old in AAA. He's probably 4 years older than the average age of someone in AAA, maybe 3 years older than the average age of AAA. So he's starting to get to he's in peak prime physical, baseball level, playing against kids, or at least, younger players. So there's that. But the Cardinals have had success with these guys before. Matt Carpenter came up late. Like, Or look around the league. Max Muncy came up late, similar profile, although he had way more strikeouts. And Christian Walker, similar profile, came up late. This happens. So I just don't understand why they're not giving him a shot.
I don't need him to be good for 10 years. I just need him to get hot at the right time and poke some balls over the wall.
Yeah.
A funny thing I read yesterday is that, Jordan Walker was in AAA all year. He only faced 2 pitchers in AAA that were younger than him.
Well, that's the thing that you have to constantly remind yourself about Jordan Walker is that he's younger than Mason Wynn. He is still incredibly young. He made his major league debut at 20 years old, which is not very common. So yeah, which is why we talk about his development and why we talk about what's best for the long term with him. But Luke and Baker, you're like, get him up. Let him doink some dongs at the major leagues, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, you don't need to worry about the mileage. You don't need to worry about the oil change. Just get the kid up and see what happens.
Yeah.
And
they need something. This problem against left-handed pitching is real, and the offense is struggling. So why not? And if not, then at least we know, and maybe they can move him for something, or we can just stop talking about it. But yeah.
Yeah, just shut us up at the very least. Also, there is part of me, big Texas boy.
Yeah.
Just want to see him hit big Texas home runs. Come on up, let it rip.
Big Texas home runs.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Texas toast. Remember that?
Yeah, whatever happened to Texas toast?
That's what I'm saying, man.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Berenstein Bears, man.
Yeah, am I the only one who remembers there being a thing called Texas toast?
Quit making fun of me.
All right. I think that's everything for the Cardinals news this week. We're going to talk about the upcoming series and some league news and whatnot. But before we do, we want to remind everyone that this show is listener supported on Patreon. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. If you enjoy the show and want to support the time and effort that goes into making it every single week, we would really love it if you would check out our Patreon. We've got levels, many different levels, different costs, all pretty cheap though. Starting at just $2 a month.
It's 50 cents an episode.
Wow. We're practically we are giving it away, and we're
we are
actively giving it away, and just asking if you really enjoy the show to consider supporting us. So patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. If you join the Patreon, you get a couple different things. You get early episodes. We record on Wednesday, release Thursdays, as you know, but I can usually get it out to our patrons on Wednesday evening at the latest. And you also get access to our private Discord server. It's the Bird Scored. We're having a great time in there. Great place to meet other Cardinal fans.
Bird Scored was pretty bummed out last night and this morning.
That was
those two bad games.
Yeah, 2 bad games against the Reds. But we ride the wave there, and the nice thing about talking about Cardinals and the Bird Scored is you're talking to other fans that listen to the show, so probably have a similar mindset as you, and you actually can just talk to real people and not just put your thoughts out into a horror-scape that is Twitter or whatever.
No one's telling you to kill yourself or to delete your account, anything like that.
An increasingly right-wing nightmare that is the current favorite platform for sports social media. Which, by the way, if we could all just pick one out there, anything other than X, that all sports media could move to, I would love that. But
I think we should start doing our show live on X. It seems to work.
Yeah, it goes really well for everyone who does that. But you also, instead of looking for another social media platform, you could join ours. It's the Bird Scored. We are coming down the home stretch too of the Fantasy Baseball League. Ben, I am 2.5 games behind you for that last playoff spot, and we are playing each other this week. So I'm taking it. You're out, buddy. I'm defending my championship. I'm going to bring down sloppy tacos. Okay. If you can't join the Patreon, we would love it if you would consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really does help. And then finally, home stretch. I said this last week. this is when a lot of your friends and family who are not necessarily as big a baseball fan as you are starting to get into it, starting to pay more attention, starting to scoreboard watch and whatnot. Give us a rec. Podcasts are primarily spread through word of mouth. So just let your friends know. That was a good time to hop on, even if the season doesn't end the way that we're hoping for.
Yeah, and we'll tell our friends about you. So, it works both ways.
Yeah. Send us your name, your location, your age, all that stuff, and we'll tell our friends all about you.
ASL,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, little. I imagine probably most of our listeners know what A/L/S/L is, but maybe not. But send us that. We'll share it with our friends. So, Ben, where can people follow us online otherwise?
Yes, we are on the hellhole that is Twitter at Talk About Birds. You can find us on Instagram at Talking About Birds. You can listen to the show on Spotify or YouTube if that's your thing. You can find our faces over on TikTok. Check us out on TikTok. You can email us directly at talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And of course, you can find all of that information, Patreon, t-shirts, episodes, this, that, the other, at talkingaboutbirds.com. And as always, you can email us. I already said that one. You can call us and leave a voicemail or send us a text message to 848-48-BIRDS. That's 848-482-4737.
All right. So the difficult schedule continues with some key games coming up this week. The Cardinals will be facing the Dodgers in St. Louis, which is nice. I will not be in St. Louis, but this seems like a great series to go to. Mookie Betts is back, which is rough for the Cardinals, but we love Mookie Betts, one of my favorite players in the game. And it's the Dodgers. They're stacked, and they're getting healthy, and they're good. Ohtani is on pace for his third MVP. He's already at a 30-30 season. Probably going to hit that 40-40, if not 50-40 or something like that. Freddie Freeman having a slightly down year from his normal standards, but is still having an incredible year because it's Freddie Freeman. Betts had a home run in his first game back. Kershaw's back. He's struggling a little bit, but it's still Clayton Kershaw. They're really only missing Yamamoto, I think, at this point. I know the back end of their rotation is struggling a little bit. They just lost James Paxton. So there's a little bit of opening there. But for the most part, this is the best organization in baseball, and their team reflects that. So it's going to be tough. But they got this is it. This is who they're playing. The Cardinals have to win games. So this is what's in front of them. How are you feeling about this series against the Dodgers?
Yeah, they have a little bit of a soft underbelly. If I had to pick on them, the last three in their lineup aren't spectacular. But yeah, their team's pretty stacked. The Cardinals are going to miss Jack Flaherty, which honestly we should be happy about because he has been lights out all year. He's just had a tremendous year, which is, not frustrating at all. But yeah, the back part of their lineup is a little weak. The back part of their bullpen is a little weak. I'll call out some new names. Obviously, they had a lot of movement at the deadline. They brought in Kevin Kiermaier, who I think is just, he's not playing out of his mind, but I think he's a great add for a team like this.
Kiermaier.
Yeah. And just super, super solid defense for a team that this is this good in center field, I think makes all the sense in the world. Outside of that, Michael Kopech is found a new gear, unsurprisingly, in the back end of their bullpen. So they have Daniel Hudson, Michael Kopech, and Evan Phillips at the back of their bullpen, which is about as good as it gets, and three very different styles of pitching. So yeah, some new faces, new names over there. It looks like the Cardinals are going to draw Glasnow, Kershaw, and Stone. So you really hope that, the Cardinals have had success against Kershaw, and Stone pushed against the Cardinals earlier this year. Maybe he won't be able to do it again. So it's 3 games. Good luck, guys. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. After that, a crucial series. If the Cardinals have any hope left at winning the NL Central, it starts in this series. 3 games against the Brewers in St. Louis. I mean, the Brewers really are who they are, right? They didn't really have a huge, we talked about it during the trade deadline. They didn't really have a big trade deadline. They kind of are the same team that they've been all year, slightly diminished because Christian Yelich is out, but they haven't really missed a beat, which is very frustrating. So they're kind of the team they've always been. Their offense is better than we thought it would be, and their pitching is pretty good, even without Corbin Burns.
Yeah. I don't know if I have much to add to that. I'll say their pitching has been a little bit on a skid recently. Devin Williams isn't having that lights out airbending type of season that he has had in past years. So I think that, there are areas to exploit and hopefully the Cardinals can do that. Bryce Terang hasn't been particularly hot recently, and he's been one of their better players. The Cardinals can come in or have the Brewers come in and make some noise. I'll just reiterate what you said. This might be the most important series of the year so far, especially as we talked about with the Diamondbacks and the Padres doing their thing. We've talked about this for the last couple of weeks, but that NL Central title is more and more important. The opportunities are drying up, so they need to take advantage of this. In a serious way.
The Cardinals have 6 games left against the Brewers, and this is half of them. And
so
I don't want to say like you got to sweep them, but it certainly is starting to feel that way.
Anything can happen in a 3-game series. Anything can happen over the next 6 weeks of baseball. But you need the Cardinals to step up. You need the Cardinals to score a run, which they haven't been able to do the last couple of nights. So. Nolan Arenado hit a run last night. I'm okay. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. But they got this. Everything is fine.
Yeah.
It's like we are that meme of the dog and everything's on fire behind him, saying this is fine.
I don't understand. I'm just looking at the Brewers roster right now, and it's just the weakness of the NL Central is the team doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Well. I mean, it's a balanced schedule though, so they're not. It's not like they're beating up on the Pirates and stuff. They're having a good.
And I've seen power rankings putting them at 5 or 6, and maybe I just haven't watched them enough this year. But I'm just looking at the names. They're they're just.
Well, I think they're doing what the Cardinals have done in the past, which is that they had a couple stars with Christian Yelich, but for the most part, they're just like everybody is kind of contributing. Either they don't really have anyone that's really, really bad, and also his season line is still catching up, but like Jackson Cherio has been crushing the ball for like a month and a half now. He's been hitting like 330 for like over a month now or something like that. So, there's some underlying stuff going on that team. Joey Ortiz is back and has been pretty good. So, I mean, it is a good team that you can't take it away from them, but they just feel beatable every time, even though they keep winning.
Man, the Cardinals really need a Jackson.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be Walker, right?
No, I mean literally a Jackson, like a Jackson Cherio or a Jackson Holiday or
Jackson
a Jackson
Merrill.
Merrill.
Okay.
Yeah. I want a Jackson.
Yeah, man, Jackson Holiday has he good now suddenly. We didn't see that coming.
Yes, man, you didn't. He is making it look really, really easy right now. I saw him hit it was a high and inside fastball against the Blue Jays, I think, last week. And this kid is going to be.
It's absurd.
He made it look too easy. It was scary.
Yeah, he's hitting some 440-foot bombs as a 20-year-old.
God, and that little. Yeah. Well, that little cherubic
it's the
face
haunted
will
doll
just lull
power.
you to sleep.
He's got Chucky power. I think there's a serial killer inside the body of Jackson Holiday.
Well, I mean, that would imply that he's not a real person, that he is just like a mannequin who has been. Okay. Anyways.
Man, who knows what these millionaires and billionaires are getting up
to. Millionaires and the
who knows
all
what they're getting up into. They're finding corpses and stuffing them with souls of serial killers and teaching them how to hit home runs.
If it's not Get Out, it's Chucky, Nate. Am I right? I don't even know which one at this point.
Why not both? Nothing would surprise me these days.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, tough week of baseball. Let's go into a couple notes from league news.
Yes, we talked about how the White Sox had finally broken their 21-game losing streak, and how are you rewarded with that? You and all of your coworkers getting fired. The White Sox fired Pedro Grifol, and 3 coaches. I think it was their hitting coach, pitching coach, and assistant coach, and Grady Sizemore, former Guardian or Indian great, now Guardian, is going to be the interim manager. I mean, you know, I didn't really want to dunk. I just thought this was a beat we're kind of following, so we might as well bring it up again. But I don't know if I've ever seen that many people on the coaching staff fired at one time.
Yeah, the entire staff, basically. All the major league level start. And, I mean, frankly, you lose 21 games in a row. It certainly seems justified. It's funny timing. They finally win a game and then they're fired the next day. It was like the ownership was waiting just to see how bad this was going to go. They wanted, I think it would not surprise me if they wanted the losing streak to be completely tied to this coaching staff. And so it was like, well, as soon as they win a game, then they're all done. So whoever comes in and takes over won't be a part of that losing streak, and they'll just let it go as long as it goes, and then everyone's out.
They had good players.
Yeah.
There was a point where this team, not too far ago, this team looked really good.
There's I don't know if you've seen it going around. There's that Jeff Passan tweet from Passan. Thank you. 2020-ish, you know, and it's like a list of all their players that are under contract for how long. And I mean, it's, you know, Luis Robert, it's Eloy Jimenez, it's like all these guys. And the story of the tweet is very similar to how people have been talking about the Braves, where it's like, look how good they are and they're locked up forever. His tweet was like, the White Sox are going to be a problem for a long time. Like, this is dynasty level team construction. And here we are. They're all gone, except for poor Luis Robert, and they're the worst team in baseball. Somehow, the Athletics are like the third worst team this year.
I mean, worst team on baseball is generous. Potentially worst team of all time is what we're aiming for right now.
Woo.
It's and it's like, well, this is not a White Sox podcast, but like Andrew Vaughn can play baseball, I think. Gavin Sheets is probably a fine baseball player. Luis Robert Jr. could be a star.
And they had a breakout ace too. Like Garrett Crochet is like become, he's like a young ace. You know, he's having a great season. So they've got a few pieces, but it's like, okay, it's a Mike Trout type thing, you know.
The most White Sox thing ever that they do. They have this young ace come out of nowhere, and they're trying to trade him. And then right before any trade starts happening, he basically goes out there and his agent tanks his entire trade value by saying that he's not going to pitch in the postseason unless they extend him. It's just
total.
They just have no idea what's going on in their clubhouse or with their team or
it's
anything.
a mess.
It's amazing. All right. Last piece of this isn't league news. This is just a topic I wanted to bring up with, and I think the White Sox, it might be part of the problem here. But last year around this time, we had waiver dumps. If you remember, famously, the Cleveland Guardians wound up claiming 3 Angels. Lucas Giolito, Reynaldo Lopez, and Matt Moore were all dropped from the team, which is something that this new CBA allows. Do you view this as a problem? Do you think it's going to happen again this year? And if so, I mean, is it going to affect the Cardinals at all?
Well, I know some have speculated, are the Cardinals going to start doing this if they get completely dropped out? Are they going to start releasing like a Tommy Pham or like a Lance Lynn or even a Kyle Gibson if they have no intent to pick up his option next year? I'd be surprised if they do it, first of all, but that's
it is not really the Cardinals' style to do something like this.
But the finances of the Cardinals are becoming a bigger and bigger topic, and the reason teams do this is because they can save on the last month or so of salary, right?
Right.
If you know you're out, and last year's was a particularly complicated one because the Angels both bought and then did this within a matter of weeks of each other.
Right.
So they had acquired some of these high, like they traded for Giolito and then they released it, So I haven't really seen like that perfect storm lineup this year, but I do suspect some pretty good players are probably going to be released on waivers. And I'm not ready yet to say it's a problem. But if we have a similar situation to what happened last year, where like some game changing players are dropped purely for salary purposes, and it can really alter like the playoff landscape and things like that, I do think probably something should be changed, but it doesn't seem like it's going to line up quite like that this year. But I don't know. I'm not as keyed into the final year contracts of all the bad teams out there. So I don't know.
There's a lot of them. But yeah, we'll see. I kind of do view it a problem, but I'm going to not react until it actually happens and then save my anger for post-issue rather than pre-issue. So that's all I got for League News.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up this episode with a little game. I got a new one for you, Ben, inspired from a podcast I heard from the other day. And just this is a game that is pretty well known, and I thought it would be fun for this show. So we're going to play Two Truths and a Lie.
Okay.
So I've got some Cardinal players here, and I've got 3 facts about them. 2 of them are real. 1 of them is a lie. You have to tell me which one is a lie.
All right.
All right. We're going to start with Paul Goldschmidt. You ready for this?
I am.
Fact number 1. He has the most hits of anyone born in Vermont.
Most hits of anyone born in Vermont. Okay.
Fact 2. He was also the kicker for his high school football team. Number 3. He earned his college degree online while playing with the Diamondbacks.
Huh. Okay, that's interesting. All right. So most player for Vermont. That seems really plausible. Kicker, like baseball players and football players don't really cross over that often. And I cannot imagine, like usually they get like a soccer player to kind of come in and kick for them. And there's no way he played soccer. He's way too big. I think that the lie is kicker for the football team.
You got it. That is the lie. First one.
Also, he's a nerd. I meant to say that. He's kind of like a nerd ass. So the getting his degree after being a superstar in baseball is unsurprising to me.
All right, let's move on. Nolan Arenado. His hometown of Lake Forest, California, named a street after him. The street is named Nolan Arenado Drive.
Okay.
Number 2, he has his pilot's license and once flew himself from one city to another for a series. Or, fact number 3, he's a huge Dwight Schrute fan.
Huh. I could see him being into The Office. Me and him are about the same age, and I'm a big fan of The Office. It makes sense that they would name a street after. I feel like I would know that Nolan Arenado is a pilot. I also feel like that could be against his major league contract. Like that's a dangerous activity, and there's so many weird things in there. I'm going to say that he is not a pilot.
You got it. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see how good I am at making up these false facts. All right. Ozzie Smith. Okay. Fact 1. He actually played the role of the Wizard of Oz in a stage production here in St. Louis at the Muni. He's a big James Bond fan and owns 2 Aston Martin DB8s. Or his famous Go Crazy home run in 1985 was his first ever left-handed home run.
Oh, wow. I feel like I should know the answer to that last one. I don't want to pick the middle one again because I feel like I keep picking the middle one, but he is such an understated guy. It would surprise me to know that he has 2 Aston Martins. That's like quite a flex. But if he's really into James Bond, I guess it makes sense. Aston Martins are very expensive. And what was the first one again?
He actually played the role of the Wizard of Oz.
He is such a celebrity in St. Louis. I kind of buy it. But would he do it? I'm going to say that one. I don't think he actually, like, I'm guessing this is like the Muni or I don't think that happened.
That actually did happen. He played,
really?
There's a good photo of it. He played the Wizard at the Muni. You had the exact right train of thought. I'm assuming it was a gimmicky thing, probably one night only sort of thing. But yeah, at the Muni, he played the Wizard of Oz. He does not own 2 Aston Martin GV8s.
Okay. I thought so,
Yeah.
but like
that,
I don't know. Maybe he could.
that's my favorite car. So,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. A little Nate
there you
fact
go.
in there.
I almost did the last one, me, and I was going to do 2 truths and a lie for me, but I decided not to. All right. Albert Pujols. He's an avid skydiver and has made over 100 solo jumps.
No way.
He eats a braised chicken dish before every home game. Or his portrait was painted by former President George W. Bush.
Okay, I know Bush painted a lot, and obviously Pujols was the best player in baseball during his run. Braised chicken. I mean, who doesn't like braised chicken? Nutritious, delicious, powers you to hit dingers. 100 jumps seems insane to me. Yeah, I'm going to say there's no way that big man is skydiving that often.
Yeah, that's not true. Yeah, apparently Didi would make him a braised chicken dish before every home game. And it was even like the recipe was published online and it was a whole thing.
Huh. Maybe I'll try
and
that.
And then Bush did paint him. Bush did a series of like 43 portraits of famous immigrants. I guess trying to maybe retcon some
interesting
some beliefs about him.
Well, you know what? I'll say I'm not sure the president should be painting that much. Maybe a little more president.
No, this is all post. This is all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When
that's nice.
Yeah.
I guess. Thanks, Bush.
All right. Finally, Yadier Molina is a huge fan of Luke Bryant and Zach Brown and country music in general.
Okay.
He played in a men's league consisting of primarily 30-year-old men when he was 15 years old. And he was referenced by name in the New York-based 2008 film Ocean's 8.
Not a big Oceans guy. I was actually talking about that with somebody over the weekend. We need to rob a building, but the only problem is we don't have enough guys.
We don't have enough
stupid.
sexy people.
I think that we could pull this job off. We just need another guy. Add
we
one
need
more
8
guy,
guys
and then we can
or 11 guys. Wait, is 8? Yeah.
11,
Yeah.
8. I don't know. It's so stupid. Not my movie. Okay, so country music, that kind of makes sense. 15-year-old playing with 30-year-olds, that makes sense. I wish I knew that movie better. Why would you reference that movie, though? That'd be such a weird thing for you to make up. But you are a weirdo. What would he be referenced for? Oh, it's caught stealing. Okay, it kind of makes sense. Why would he need to play with 30-year-olds if he was on? I'm going to say that one just because I don't know why. I just have a gut feeling. I'm going to say he was not a 15-year-old playing with 30-year-olds.
He was a 15-year-old playing with 30-year-olds. It's a crazy story. He got in a fight, I guess, in his normal league, and his dad, who was the father of the Molina brothers, so an intense person, basically placed him, and his brothers had already been signed, and so like the Molina family is already like becoming a baseball dynasty because he's the youngest Molina, and his dad, like, in order to basically, like, in his words, teach him to be a man, put him in this men's league, and they like almost won the championship, and Molina and a lot of them credit this season when he was 15 years old playing with 30-year-olds is what like was a big part of his like why he's so fucking good, because he was he was good at like playing. He had to be good with these guys, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So no, he was not referenced in Ocean's 8.
Damn it. I was just wish casting a little bit there.
It's funny. You thought about caught stealing. My thought, I thought I wanted to pick something specific to New York because I thought maybe because of the home run in the playoffs against the Mets, a New York based movie would like reference Yachty as like something like that, you know. But I do like your angle of caught stealing in a movie about heists. That's pretty good too.
Like Brad Pitt's eating an apple and he's like, we need another guy, somebody who is so fast he couldn't get thrown out by Yachty or Molina. I don't know. But we need one more guy to make this heist happen.
Also, Ocean's 8 is the full female cast Oceans.
Oh, damn.
But we
need another girl.
But yeah, we need another girl. We need 8 girls.
So stupid.
Love that Sandra Bullock.
People love it. They made like 6 of them. So people.
I love a heist movie.
Sure.
I like
they're fine.
I've not seen any of the other ones, but Ocean's 11, the remake, the modern one. I like it. It's a fun movie.
Okay.
I love a heist.
We got 9 guys. No, we're going to need more.
We need more guys. Get Luda in here.
Fly out to Reno because that's where the other guy is. Go convince him that we need another guy.
Isn't that half the Fast and the Furious movies too, though, which we love? They're always going and getting guys.
No comment. Don't use my words against me.
We need more guys. We need a hacker guy.
Well, that's like Luda went from mechanic to the best computer hacker in the entire universe.
Yeah, they actually.
That's
what fun. Is it? In one of them, they go to get the best hacker in the world, and Luda is better than them. And he was a mechanic in the first
whole movie is about acquiring her, and he's like, child play. Let's come on now. And then I think he goes to space later in that movie in a car.
Of course you do.
I think you mix. That's good. That's entertaining.
The acquiring the hacker is not the one where they go to space. I think acquiring the hacker is like 7 maybe, and then space is 10. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Great movies.
They're all good. Though. That I can say.
Start at Fast 5.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. What a note to end on. Thanks everyone for listening. Again, tell your friends. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We'll be back next week, though I will not. So, Hambone, I wish you the best of luck and even more luck to whoever you trick into joining you. It'll be a tough week of baseball. I will hopefully still be able to watch some of it. And yeah, thanks, everybody. And until next week, go Cardinals.
Let's go. How it was because you're so fucking loud all the time.
I've made myself deaf from my own voice.